the remission of Bilkis Bano's convicts is being challenged now in the top court. The Bilkis Bano case has now reached the apex court. A plea has been filed against the remission of the convicts in her case. The remission is being challenged. The Supreme Court has assured that it will look into the matter. So the Bilkis Bano case in the top court now, it reaches the Supreme Court. Even as we speak, the remission of Bilkis Bano case convicts is being challenged in the Supreme Court. Advocate Aparna Bhatt has said the Supreme Court has given a discretion to the state to consider it. And senior advocate Kapil Sibal says we are challenging the remission order. Bilkis Bano was pregnant when 14 members of her family were killed in front of her eyes, and she and another family member were also raped. And Chief Justice of India N.V. Ramana said we will see. Joining us now is Priyanka. Priyanka, when we talk about this particular case, Bilkis Bano, the entire country was outraged, even as, in Gujarat, we saw those visuals of the convicts in her case being granted remission of their sentences from life imprisonment after 15 years, a huge shock for the entire nation. Now the case reaches the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says it will look into the matter. Over to you.
Well, Rukma, this is a huge development that we are seeing in the case of Bilkis Bano and the remission that has been given to these 11 convicts who had brutally gang raped her in 2002 in Gujarat itself. And now we are seeing that in the Supreme Court it has been challenged over the basis of which this remission has been given to these 11 convicts. And we had seen that earlier as well in Gujarat. The lawyers of Bilkis Bano earlier as well had stated that they are looking into the legalities of it, and then they will be taking the appropriate steps in the apex court, and they will be challenging it. In fact, there has been a lot of support for Bilkis Bano, and there have been several letters that have been written to the president itself, appealing to Draupadi Murmu, stating that she should also take some action of overturning the government of Gujarat's decision. Now, the challenge will be made with respect to the government of Gujarat's decision of allowing this remission, challenging the authenticity and the legality of the panel as well, and the panel in which there were more of the BJP MLAs as well and BJP leaders who had given their go-ahead of giving the remission to these 11 convicts as well. So all of those parts will be challenged in the Supreme Court. And of course, we will have to wait and watch for the legal arguments as to what is the basis of the arguments that will be presented before the Supreme Court. But as of now, from what I have been able to gather from the lawyer and the legal teams of Bilkis Bano, they have stated that they are going through the entire recommendations of the panel. They're going through the entire minutes of those meetings of those panel as well. They're going through the government of Gujarat's earlier policy as well, under which the remission has been granted to these 11 convicts. And they will, of course, appeal to them with respect to the kind of nature of the crime that it had been committed by these 11 convicts against Bilkis Bano in 2002, and how and why this kind of a remission has been given to these 11 convicts as well. So all of that will be under the purview of this. We will, in fact, get these details in these legal arguments that will be presented before the Supreme Court.
Right. And well, as of now, news is that the case is in the top court. Priyanka, the top court has assured that it will look into the matter. Meanwhile, when we talk about the Gujarat government, when we talk about, the panel that it has justified the remission of the convicts after 15 years.
Well, absolutely, Rukma. They are sticking to this. They have, in fact, we have been on the ground reporting in Godhra as well, trying to get in a word from the Supreme Court, from the convicts, from the legal teams, and of course the panel members, the BJP leaders who were part of the panel that gave the recommendation of this remission to these 11 convicts. And they have said that they will stay on with this and that there was absolutely nothing wrong. There were several statements that had been made, but after a point they had completely stonewalled the media. They were not speaking to them. But the government of Gujarat was staying by this decision of the remission that has been granted to these 11 convicts, and they're saying that this is as per the law and that there is nothing wrong with the law. And of course they have said, and they have said that the legal team of Bilkis Bano has the option to approach the Supreme Court if they want to challenge the legalities. But as of now, there is no legal loophole that they will have to rescind the remission of these 11 convicts as well. So all of that has been said in the public domain. And after a point, the BJP leaders and the BJP government, at least in the government of Gujarat, has gone completely silent on this issue, and they have said that this is something that will have to be taken via the legal recourse, and the legal teams of Bilkis Bano will have to approach the Supreme Court. So of course, some relief can be expected now that there has been some steps taken by the legal teams of Bilkis Bano, and that they have approached the Supreme Court. They have challenged the remission that had been granted to these 11 convicts. So, of course, we will have to wait and watch as to what kind of arguments have been presented and what really the bench decides, and how they really, analyze the entire law over the remission that has been granted to these 11 convicts.
Right. Well, it's been a case, it's been a 20-year battle already for her. Swapnil Kothari, senior advocate, joining us on the phone line. Mr. Kothari, when we look at, what Bilkis has gone through, 20 years later, we find that her convicts are remitted. They are granted remission, as it's said. The 11 of those convicts, and they're garlanded. The entire nation is outraged. Now the case is in the Supreme Court. How do you see this battle for her panning out?
Well, I think let's hope that the Supreme Court hears both the sides properly, which I'm sure it will, and arrives at the conclusion that gives justice to Bilkis Bano. I do not know, and I do not understand why these convicts were let off free. What was the great hurry for a remission? And if that is the case, then I think the Supreme Court needs to view it and review it from all aspects and give the appropriate order, maybe send them back to incarceration, or give any reasons for confirming the remission order, which I'm sure the Supreme Court will do that. Give reasons if it decides to confirm that remission order, which I'm not so sure. Looking at the outrage in the public eye, and also with the possible evidence that is there before, where Bilkis Bano can surely say that these were the rapists, that she had undergone the trauma, then I think the Supreme Court can obviously do justice, which it is empowered to do as the highest court of the land.
And how do we understand, sir, the remission granted to convicts who are accused of rape and murder, and who have been convicted to life terms? And we'll be talking about this more, but joining us is our legal expert, Ridhim Bharadwaj. Ridhim, it's over to you. We also have with us senior lawyer, senior advocate Swapnil Kothari. Bilkis Bano's case in the Supreme Court now.
That's right. We just heard this particular mentioning happening in the Supreme Court, viewers, where in the Bilkis Bano case, the advocate Aparna Bhatt came to the Supreme Court and said, we want a discretion to the state to consider it. Supreme Court gave a discretion to the state to consider it. Now we want to know what further can happen. Senior advocate Kapil Sibal, who appeared in the case, said, we are challenging the remission order. Now the biggest news that's coming from the Supreme Court in a mentioning that took place today of the PIL is the Supreme Court has agreed to hear the PIL challenging the remission of Bilkis Bano killers, and the bench has also asked a very important question before I go across to Swapnil, where the bench asks whether the release was on the basis of a Supreme Court order. Sibal then said the petitioner is not questioning the Supreme Court order, but the basis on which the remission was granted to the 11 convicts. And they also told the Supreme Court that the bench that had been headed by Justice Rastogi had permitted the Gujarat government to apply the remission rules prevailing at the time of the conviction of the 11 accused. The Chief Justice said that we will list the matter before the appropriate bench. I want to go across to Swapnil, who continues to be with us. Swapnil, this is a case in which there was huge criticism after the remission given to the 11 convicts. The way forward would really be to ensure that these people who are convicted continue to be behind bars.
Well, absolutely, Rhythm. There is no question about it. I do not know why the remission order was given, and a very pertinent question there asked by the Supreme Court, that whether it is on the basis of any Supreme Court judgment Now, that obviously, will possibly come in the way because you have the rule of precedence. But then, obviously there are distinguishing features also, as you are you are very much aware, being a lawyer yourself. So this case can be distinguished from the cases where the Supreme Court has agreed or has given the remission order. But in this case, obviously, given the gravity of the crime and given the fact that these people were supposed to have faced some 2 decades of imprisonment and, have been let off earlier, or whatever the sentencing was, and have been let off earlier and freed, then obviously the rules need to be re-examined, and more so the applicability of the rules to these people as to why the rules were applied to these convicts and they were granted remission order. So the Supreme Court, having agreed to hear the PIL, I hope the Supreme Court reviews it appropriately and comes to a conclusion that is favorable to Bilkis Bano, because I believe that these people need to be behind bars and complete their sentence, even if it's good behavior or anything of that sort, because, as far as the parole and the furlough is concerned, all of those things are different as opposed to remission. Remission is completely, for the benefit of the viewers, completely where a person's sentence has been reduced and he's been let off free, which is what has happened here. So this is possibly a grave miscarriage of justice. And, the rules, as I said, the applicability of the rules has to be re-examined, and more so I hope that there is no Supreme Court precedent, because then it becomes a tad difficult for the Supreme Court to then go into the distinguishing aspect and say that, well, this case is different and we cancel the remission order. So for that, obviously all aspects the Supreme Court will examine, and I'm glad that the Supreme Court has decided to list this plea of Aparna Bhatt.
Yes, I also want to ask you here, even as we're trying to get a sense of what happened, Swapnil, this is a case that caused national outrage. Today, when the Supreme Court agrees to hear it, there is a ray of hope that justice will be done.
Well, absolutely. The Supreme Court always comes as the final arbiter of the Constitution and as a constitutional sentinel, as what we use the phrase, the sentinel qui vive. So, that being the case, and the Supreme Court has done ample times, has sort of walked into these cases and done justice where there was grave injustice done, and has come to the rescue of the petitioners or rescue of the applicants, whose fundamental rights have been trampled. Here, obviously, the fundamental right of bodily integrity was trampled upon because she underwent rape. And obviously, the sentencing which was given has not been, carried out to the fullest. So that, again, on the principles of equality, where some other convict tomorrow come and say that, hey, I'm suffering this same amount of sentencing. Why am I not being given remission? What is so great about these people that they've been given remission? So obviously that will open up another Pandora's box, and you will have application after application from convicts. So this is something which the Supreme Court will have to put, sort of nip it in the bud and say that, look, this is, grave miscarriage of justice. This convict should not have been given remission. And that ray of hope will obviously, I hope,
absolutely
prevails. I believe so.
Absolutely. Swapnil, thank you for being with us. Viewers, the top focus coming. Supreme Court mentioning on the Bilkis Bano case. And finally, the Supreme Court says we will list it before the appropriate bench. Let's also tell you the Supreme Court, as it's come out with this order, has said that this was has questioned whether the bench headed by Justice Rastogi had permitted the Gujarat government and whether the release was on the basis of the Supreme Court order, to which the counsels replied that it's not the Supreme Court order that's being questioned,